Welcome to another unit in facilities. We're starting Unit 4 this week, and last week we talked about things like electrical and mechanical systems, ancillary areas, sustainability, and signage. So these are all parts of the facility that, generally we don't see on a regular basis. They're things that make the facility run smoothly, and as long as nothing goes wrong, we tend not to notice them. So, but they have a big impact on things like participant experience, user comfort, safety. They're the kinds of things that you notice when they go wrong, or if they're not sufficient. So, and they also have a lot to do with the lifespan of the facility. You don't want your floor warping because the humidity level in the facility was a few percentage points off. These types of systems have very technical terms and language and contain kind of a specific jargon. So what I wanted to do with the reading notes was to expose you to some of that jargon and get familiar with some of the terms, such as HVAC or foot candles or lead. These are pretty common terms in sport facilities, and they bounce around frequently in sports, and I just wanted you to be exposed to them if you haven't been already. I also, in the last reading notes, I explained what I was looking for in part one, making sure that you looked up some of the terms and could explain what they meant. I spent the second half of the reading notes looking at some specific jargon with locker rooms. So I wanted to set locker rooms apart because they're pretty much in every sport facility. They're very common. These are and there is some very technical language there. Language dealing with things like shower styles, various types of shower partitions, wet areas and dry areas. So I wanted to go over some of those terms and get used to using them. It's because it's professional to use the correct terminology when talking about locker rooms. So I just wanted to make sure you were exposed to some of those terms and could discuss locker room aspects. So this unit, we're looking at indoor facilities. And this includes things like pools, fitness centers, and court floors. We have all of these things here on the UALR campus, and you're auditing one or more of these. And, lately I've been talking a lot about ADA requirements, especially when it comes to your facility checklist assignment. And that's important because it's federal law that sport facilities have to adhere to. It's federal law, and that's one reason why you should be very familiar with it. In this unit, we're also going to look at another set of regulations, but at the state level, that apply to some sport facilities here, and that's the Arkansas Department of Health. These regulations apply to the pool. Pools are governed by state health departments. So the Arkansas Department of Health comes over and conducts regular inspections of the pool here, and issues our permit. So if they come over for an inspection, which they're unannounced, they don't announce their inspection, and they check for things like proper chemistry levels, proper documentation and logs of chemistry and maintenance checks, and if any of that stuff is amiss, if any of those things don't match their regulations, they will issue a citation or even revoke the permit, which means a shutdown. So I thought it would be good to look over some of those things that the health department is looking for when they're conducting inspections, when they issue permits, and what some of the deal breakers are. For example, if the health department comes over and they can't see the main drain in the pool because the water is too cloudy, if that main drain isn't visible, even at a depth of 16 feet, which is pretty deep, then they will shut down the pool. The pool is supposed to be shut down. And that makes sense because if you think about it, if you can't see the main drain on the bottom of the pool, then how are you supposed to see a child maybe that has sunk down to the bottom? So you can't rescue a swimmer or a child down there. So it's for that makes sense. The health department regulations make sense. They keep us safe and healthy. So if you are in a situation where there's a pool in your facility or under your jurisdiction, which is pretty common, if you're an athletic director somewhere at either a high school or a college or somewhere, you'll probably have a pool. And maybe you have, a maintenance person or a head swim coach that runs the pool, but you still need to be familiar and be able to speak the language and be able to know the important parts of pool regulations so that you can, that the buck stops with you if you're the AD. So you need to make sure that things are being run right in your pool. So we are right in the middle of two big projects in this class, and I had warned you at the beginning that there are a lot of intermediate due dates and some overlap between the two projects. And so we're starting to get into that territory. Our facility audit, we're getting close to being done. You should have wrapped up your facility visits by the end of this week, taken your tape measure and your checklists and your camera phone, explained how you measured it, taken pictures of it, and then explained what you found. So if you had a standard that wasn't measurable, such as lighting is at an appropriate level, then I'm going to count off because you didn't tell me what the appropriate level was, and then you didn't tell me how you measured it or how you decided that it was appropriate. You can't decide that a facility standard is met just because you think it is or in your opinion it is. If the water is clear enough to see the main drain in your opinion, but the health department disagrees with you, you can kind of see that opinions that aren't measurable may or may not be good enough to pass the standards that you need to pass. So if I'm issuing your pool permit and you tell me that something meets a standard, but I can't measure that, how am I supposed to decide? So that's what I'm going to be looking for in your inspection, and your explanation of how you measured all of those things and your pictures. So that was part 3 in your facility audit assignment. Now we're moving on to part 4, which is a formal executive report of your findings. And you should think of this part as a deliverable to the facility director. So in most cases, that's either going to be Mr. Erickson or Mr. Morales, or if you did a different facility, whoever is, the manager of that facility. It should be able to be a report that's presentable to them, that maybe tells them how their facility is stacking up against the various standards and guidelines that you researched. Maybe tells them if there's something that they need to fix or address in their facility, or maybe something that they're doing that's done well. So that's kind of the level of professionalism that I'm looking for with part 4. Switching over to the event administration assignment, you were asked to pick an event that you can have an administrative role in. And some of you are already involved in an administrative capacity in various sports events, and there's no reason to reinvent the wheel if you've got those roles and events already. So that's great, and I saw a lot of that in your part 1 in your event explanation. So the point of this assignment is to reflect on some of the various tasks and details that you perform in an event. I want you to articulate those and reflect on what goes into what you're doing. So, you're going to be doing those things, and you may do them already, but I just want an additional level of reflection and articulation on what you actually do. So if you say, you run things, or you make sure everything is running smoothly, I want to know what that means. What does everything running smoothly mean in your event? And what does that mean that you actually do? So I'm just looking for a high level of detail there. And so the next step in this assignment is the first set of task progress forms. So that's when you're going to start telling me what you're doing, how you're planning, or what you've already done in a few different areas of your event. So those are attached in your event administration assignment, so you can get that blank form there and fill it in. I also want to remind you about your sport event observation assignment. So, this is different from the one that you're working. This is just, I just want you to watch one. And there are a lot of great sport events going on around Little Rock right now, and the weather's only going to get nicer, so there'll be more and more. This past weekend there was a bike race. I'm a cycling official, so that's something that I'm involved in. There's also an adventure race at Pinnacle. That was kind of cool. This weekend is the Little Rock Marathon, which I'll be working at. I'm leading the 3:55 pace group, so that's a way for me to both work the event and participate in it. So I think that's fun. It's a fun way to kind of be a mentor to people that maybe need a little help or just, want something to hang on to when they're running their marathon. They want someone to tell them it's all going to be okay and kind of entertain them a little bit. And so that's what being a PACE leader is all about, and I really enjoy that. There's also some cool events on campus. You know that this week is homecoming week. We also just hosted the state high school wrestling championships, and so that was pretty interesting too. So those are just some examples of events going on both on campus and around town. Keep your eye out for something that attracts your interest and that looks fun for you to watch and observe and kind of audit. So this is, I'm tired of talking. That illustrates that this is a comprehensive class. Facilities and events are detail-oriented, and I'm asking you to be detail-oriented too in this class. My goal for you is to bring attention to all the different aspects of a facility or an event that you may or may not notice, and to kind of make you bring that detail out and help you discover resources too, kind of like your facility standards guidelines that help you figure things out. So thank you for the level of detail. That's one of my main goals in this class. So maybe it seems a little bit tedious at times. You do it, you know how you do it, but I'm asking you to go a step further and really think about what it is you do and how you do it and explain that. And that'll be important too when you do things like develop your resume or interview for jobs. Somebody that hires wants to hear those levels of detail as well. So that's kind of what it's all about. So thanks for listening to this very long speech, and have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.